Hello, and thank you for watching my video. The Virginia Counseling website um, does have a section which provides information in reference to cases of counselors who have been disciplined by the board. When doing a search of the most recent decisions, and the search automatically defaults to providing case decisions from the last 90 days. I searched for cases from the last year and randomly selected case details and decisions to review for this assignment. Um, for the last 90 days, there was 12 cases of where disciplinary decision was made in the state of Virginia. In the last year, there was 44 cases. From what I've read, dual relationship violations are occurring with the most frequency amongst counselors in Virginia. Um, Second would be violations relating to continuing education hours. So those are about the second most common that I came across. But inappropriate counselor-client relationships are by far the most common, and they range from counselors failing to maintain appropriate boundaries to an extreme case I read where a counselor met and engaged in alcohol use and sexual intercourse with a client that was in a psych hospital receiving treatment for substance abuse and suicidal ideations. Um, so, but oddly enough, that wasn't the case that stood out to me the most. The two cases that stood out to me the most as I read through the cases were um, a case where a counselor was criminally charged with 17 counts of fraud, and another case where a counselor was criminally charged for having sexual contact with a 12-year-old family member. Each of which of those cases resulted in a license revocation. So, with exception of the discipline cases that related to continuing education violations, most cases were directly related to the counselors failing to establish and maintain appropriate boundaries within the counselor-client relationship. Um, and in most cases, I'm guessing that counselor impairment was likely the root cause for the counselor's behavior. Um, the Virginia State Code, which governs the practice of counseling, states that counselors should practice in a manner that is in the best interests of the public, and that it does not endanger public health, safety, or welfare. Um, the American Code, or excuse me, the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics, Section A states that our primary responsibility as counselors is to respect the dignity and promote the welfare of our clients. Section B also states that counselors should engage in self-care activities to maintain and promote their own emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Um, and like I mentioned before, I think that it's fairly safe to assume that counselor impairment was the root cause for most of the violations that have occurred, at least the ones that I read in the state of Virginia. Um, in concerning counselor impairment, the ACA Code of Ethics states that counselors should monitor themselves for signs of impairment and seek assistance for problems that reach the level of professional impairment and limit or terminate their counseling responsibility until they can safely resume their work. Um, so when I was reading all these, my takeaway was that, it was a couple things. Um, First, that it's human to make mistakes, and with the exception of some of the more egregious and really bad cases, the counselors in the cases that I um, read, the discipline cases, were just being human, albeit not the best side of human and certainly not professional, but they were just being human. Um, you know, but as counselors, we have an ethical and legal obligation to the clients to provide safe treatment. Um, and safe treatment means that we are going to maintain the appropriate boundaries and provide a safe space for the clients. to receive treatment. And certainly, when dual relationships are formed, um, whether the client knows it or not, it's our job as professional counselors to know that that is, in fact, um, not appropriate and not in the best interest of the client. So my question would be, um, should some of the counselors in the cases that I read be allowed to return to practice, and could the impairments which led to the offenses been avoided through proper training and self-care? Um, so thanks for watching my video, and God bless.